The city's heartbeat was strongest at midnight, when the streets below Tunde's rooftop apartment shimmered with neon and the distant hum of traffic never truly faded. In that cramped space, with peeling blue paint and a battered desk cluttered with wires and half-drunk mugs of coffee, Tunde stood by the window, his silhouette outlined by the glow of the city lights. He was tall and wiry, his deep brown skin almost bronze in the artificial light, and his face, sharp-jawed, with tired, determined eyes, betrayed both sleepless ambition and a stubborn hope. He pressed his forehead to the cool glass, staring out at the skyline. "One day, this city will know my name," he whispered, voice barely more than a breath. The sudden knock at the door jolted him from his reverie. He turned, running a hand over his cropped hair, and called out, "Who's there?" The door creaked open and Ifeoma stepped in, her presence as bright as a yellow hoodie. She was tall, athletic, with honey-brown skin and a face that radiated warmth, wide-set eyes that sparkled with mischief, a broad nose, and a smile that could chase away any gloom. Her hair was pulled into a high bun, a few tight curls escaping at the edges, and her leggings were splattered with paint from her latest creative project. She grinned as she took in the scene. "Still talking to yourself, Tunde? That's how you know you're a real founder." He couldn't help but laugh, the tension easing from his shoulders. "Or just losing my mind. Not sure there's a difference in them all." Ifeoma dropped her backpack on the floor and flopped onto the sagging mattress. "Same thing, isn't it?" she teased, patting the spot beside her. Tunde joined her, sinking into the mattress with a sigh. He stared up at the cracked ceiling, the city's glow casting shifting patterns above them. "I've got an idea, Ify. Something big, but I can't do it alone." She sat up, crossing her long legs beneath her. "I'm listening. Pitch me." He sat up too, his eyes suddenly alive. "Imagine an app that connects all the small vendors in the city, food stalls, tailors, mechanics, to customers who'd never find them otherwise. Level the playing field against the big chains. Give the little guy a chance." Ifeoma's brow furrowed in thought, her gaze sharpening. "It's bold, but you'll need more than code and dreams. You'll need grit and money." Tunde offered a crooked smile. "I've got plenty of one. Guess which?" She snorted, nudging him with her elbow. "Well, you've got me. That's a start." The two sat in companionable silence, the city's noise drifting up from the street below. In that moment, the dream felt almost real, tangible, like the hum of energy in the air. The morning light filtered weakly through the grimy window of the converted factory building that housed the city's most popular co-working space. The air buzzed with a low hum of conversation, the tapping of keyboards, and the occasional burst of laughter. Exposed brick walls and steel beams gave the place a raw, industrial charm, a fitting backdrop for the dreams and ambitions swirling inside. Tunde and Ifeoma navigated through the maze of desks, their eyes scanning for the one person who could turn their idea into reality, a developer willing to believe in their vision. They found Emeka in a corner, hunched over his laptop, his fingers flying across the keyboard with practiced ease. Emeka was short and stocky, with a round face framed by thick glasses that magnified his keen, dark eyes. His close-cropped hair and perpetual 5 o'clock shadow gave him a rugged look, softened only by the faded football jersey he wore, a nod to his love for the local team. Tunde cleared his throat. "Hey, Emeka, got a minute?" Emeka looked up, pushing his glasses high on his nose. "Depends. What's it about?" Ifeoma stepped forward, her voice warm but direct. "We've got an app idea that could change how small vendors connect with customers, but we need someone to build it." Emeka raised an eyebrow, skepticism flickering across his face. "Build it for free." Tunde met his gaze without flinching. "Not free. Equity. And pizza. Lots of pizza." Emeka chuckled, shaking his head. "You're dreaming, man. But I like the hustle. I'll give you 2 weeks. If you're serious, I'm in. If not, I'm out." Relief washed over Tunde's face. "Deal." As they settled into their new partnership, the small team dove headfirst into the wake. Nights blurred into mornings in Tunde's cramped apartment, where the glow of laptop screens illuminated tired faces and scattered notebooks. Ifeoma sketched logos and user interfaces, Emeka coded with fierce concentration, and Tunde paced, muttering ideas and encouragement, Empty pizza boxes piled up, and the city outside seemed to hold its breath. One evening, as dawn threatened the horizon, Tunde slumped back against the wall, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. "We're close," he whispered. "I can feel it." Ifeoma smiled, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. "We've got grit. That's half the battle." But grit alone wasn't enough. Their first pitch to an investor, Mrs. Adeyemi, a sharp-eyed woman in a tailored navy suit, ended with polite rejection. Her office, all glass and chrome, overlooked the sprawling city skyline as she listened, fingers steepled. "You have passion," she said finally, "but passion doesn't pay the bills. Come back when you have traction." Outside her office, Ifeoma squeezed Tunde's shoulder. "One no at a time. We'll get there." And slowly, painfully, they did. The weeks that followed were a relentless test of endurance. The small team, Tunde, Ifeoma, and Emeka, worked tirelessly in the cramped apartment and the bustling co-working space, fueled by little more than instant coffee and sheer determination. The city outside continued its ceaseless rhythm, indifferent to their struggles but also full of possibility. One evening, after another grueling day of coding and design, Tunde sat hunched over his laptop, eyes bloodshot but focused. The soft glow of the screen illuminated the sharp angles of his face, the faint scar above his right eyebrow a reminder of all the battles, literal and figurative, that had shaped him. Ifeoma leaned against the doorway, watching him with a mixture of admiration and concern. "You need to rest," she said gently. "You're burning out." Tunde shook his head, a stubborn smile tugging at his lips. "Not yet. We're so close. Just a little more." Emeka entered, carrying a stack of takeout boxes. "Pizza delivery. Thought you might need a break." Tunde's smile widened. "You're a lifesaver." They gathered around the small table, sharing laughter and stories between bites. The weight of exhaustion momentarily lifted. But the path wasn't smooth. Technical glitches, funding shortfalls, and moments of doubt threatened to derail their progress. One afternoon, frustration boiled over. Emeka slammed his laptop shut. "This code isn't working. We're going in circles." Ifeoma placed a calming hand on his shoulder. "We'll figure it out. We always do." Tunde stood, pacing. "We have to. This isn't just an app. It's a lifeline for so many." Their perseverance paid off when a local food blogger featured their app, sending a wave of users flooding in. Vendors called with gratitude, customers raved, and for the first time, the dream felt within reach. On the rooftop of their apartment building, the three stood together, the city sprawled beneath them like a sea of lights. Tunde held up his phone, eyes shining. "Look at this. Orders. Downloads. We did it." Ifeoma smiled, her voice soft but proud. "From zero to grit." Emeka nodded. "And this is just the beginning." The city's pulse beat on, but now, in one small corner, a new story was being written, one of hope, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of those who dare to dream. The glow of success was intoxicating, but the real test was just beginning. With the app gaining traction, Tunde, Ifeoma, and Emeka faced a new set of challenges, scaling their startup from a passionate project into a sustainable business. The co-working space buzzed with renewed energy as the team expanded. New faces appeared, a marketing specialist with sharp glasses and a quick smile, a customer service representative whose calm demeanor soothed frustrated users, and a financial advisor who spoke in numbers and spreadsheets. One afternoon, Tunde sat in a glass-walled conference room, the city skyline stretching beyond the windows. His reflection merged with the towering buildings, a symbol of the dream he was chasing. Ifeoma leaned forward, eyes bright. "We need to think bigger. Partnerships, funding rounds, maybe even investors who can help us grow." Tunde nodded, but the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him. "I know, but every move feels like walking a tightrope. One misstep, and everything could fall apart." Emeka, ever the pragmatist, added, "We'll have to work smarter, not just harder." Late nights became a constant. The team juggled customer demands, technical updates, and the pressure to prove themselves in a competitive market. Tunde's hand trembled as he reviewed financial reports. Ifeoma's creative spark flickered under exhaustion. Emeka's patience thinned. Amid the chaos, personal sacrifices piled up. Tunde missed family gatherings. Ifeoma postponed her art exhibitions, and Emeka's health wavered. One evening, as the city lights blinked below, Tunde confided in Ifeoma on the rooftop. "Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it. The sleepless nights, the stress." Ifeoma took his hand firmly. "It is, because this isn't just about us. It's about every vendor who finally has a chance, every customer who feels connected." Their bond deepened, forged in shared struggle and unwavering belief. But just as momentum built, a rival startup launched a similar app with aggressive marketing and deep pockets. Downloads plateaued, and investor interest wavered. The team gathered in the cramped apartment. Tension thickened the air. Emeka broke the silence. "We need to innovate, find what makes us unique." Ifeoma nodded. "Our strength is community. Let's double down on that." Tunde's eyes burned with renewed fire. "We fight smarter. We fight together." Through grit, creativity, and unyielding spirit, they face a storm, turning setbacks into lessons and dreams into reality. As the startup's momentum grew, so did the attention it attracted, both good and dangerous. One crisp morning, as the city buzzed awake beneath a pale blue sky, Tunde sat in the modest conference room of their co-working space, reviewing the latest user metrics on his laptop. The numbers were promising, but his phone buzzed insistently on the table. He glanced at the screen, an email from a major player in the food delivery industry, a corporate giant known for its aggressive acquisitions and deep pockets. The subject line read, "Strategic Acquisition Proposal." Tunde's heart pounded as he opened the message. The email was from a senior executive at Metro Eats, a multinational brand dominating multiple markets with millions of users and billions in funding. They had been watching Tunde's startup closely and were now offering to buy the company outright. Later that day, Tunde called Ifeoma and Emeka into the conference room. The tension was palpable as he read the email aloud. "Metro Eats wants to buy us," Tunde said, voice steady but laced with disbelief. "They think our app could fill a gap in their portfolio." Ifeoma's eyes widened, then narrowed thoughtfully. "That's huge. It means we've made it on their radar." Emeka rubbed his chin, cautious. "But it also means we might lose control of everything we built." Tunde leaned forward, fingers clasped. "They are offering a buyout that would secure our financial futures. But at what cost? Do we sell out or keep fighting for our vision?" The room fell silent, each grappling with the weight of the decision. Days later, they met with Metro Eats representatives in a sleek downtown office. The executives were impeccably dressed, crisp suits, polished shoes, and confident smiles. The lead negotiator, a woman named Clara, spoke with practiced charm. "Your startup has incredible potential," Clara said smoothly. "With Metro Eats resources, we can scale your vision globally. Imagine the impact." Tunde listened carefully but felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "We started this to empower small vendors, to keep the community at the heart. I worry that under a corporate umbrella, that mission could get lost." Clara smiled. "We respect that. Our goal is to enhance, not erase. But growth requires compromise." Back at their workspace, the team debated late into the night. Ifeoma voiced what they all felt. "We've come so far, but this is a crossroads. Do we risk everything for independence or accept the security of a buyout?" Emeka sighed. "There's no right answer, only what we believe in." Tunde looked out at the city skyline, lights twinkling like distant stars. "Whatever we decide, it has to be true to why we began." The offer hung over them like a storm cloud, both a promise and a challenge. Their grit would be tested once more, as they faced the ultimate question, to sell or to stand firm. The days that followed were filled with restless nights and intense conversations. The small team gathered repeatedly in their cramped apartment, the walls echoing with debates that weighed heavily on their hearts and minds. One evening, as rain drummed softly against the window, Tunde sat at the worn wooden table, fingers steepled, eyes fixed on the flickering candlelight. Ifeoma paced nearby, her brow furrowed in thought. "We started this to give power back to the community," she said quietly. "If we sell, even for a fortune, will we still be able to protect that?" Emeka, leaning against the wall, nodded. Money can buy comfort, but it can't buy passion. We have to ask ourselves what matters more. Tunde finally spoke, voice steady but resolute. I believe in this dream, not just as a business, but as a movement. If Metro Eats takes over, our vision might get swallowed. Ifeoma stopped pacing and looked at him. So, what do? We fight, Tunde said firmly. We grow on our own terms. We prove that grit and heart can stand against giants. The decision was made. They declined Metro Eats' offer. But the choice came with consequences. The corporate giant, stung by the refusal, launched an aggressive campaign to outpace their startup. Ads flooded social media, discounts slashed prices, and vendors were courted with lucrative contracts. The pressure mounted, threatening to overwhelm the fledgling team. Yet, through it all, Tunde, Ifeoma, and Emeka doubled down on their community roots. They hosted vendor meetups, improved their app based on user feedback, and shared stories of resilience that resonated deeply. One late night, as the city lights blinked below, Ifeoma smiled at Tunde. We may be small, but we're mighty. Tunde returned the smile, eyes shining with determination. From zero to grit, remember? Their journey was far from over, but their spirit burned brighter than ever, a testament to the power of dreams forged in the fire of struggle. The relentless pressure had begun to wear on Tunde in ways even he struggled to admit. It started subtly, persistent fatigue that no amount of sleep could shake, restless nights filled with racing thoughts, and a creeping sense of detachment from the dream he once cherished so fiercely. The city's neon glow outside his apartment window no longer sparked hope, but felt like a distant, unreachable promise. One evening, after another marathon session troubleshooting app glitches and managing vendor complaints, Tunde slumped into his worn chair, rubbing his temples as a dull headache throbbed behind his eyes. Ifeoma noticed a change immediately. His usual spark dimmed, his movement slower, his smile forced. Tunde, she said gently, kneeling beside him, you've been pushing yourself too hard. You need to rest. He shook his head, voice barely above a whisper. I can't. There's too much at stake. But inside, doubt gnawed at him. The constant setbacks, the mounting financial strain, and the aggressive moves by Metro Eats had drained his motivation. The startup that once felt like a lifeline now seemed like a weight pulling him under. Days later, in the quiet of the co-working space, Tunde sat alone, staring blankly at his laptop screen. Emeka approached cautiously. Hey, man, you okay? Emeka asked, concern creasing his brow. Tunde sighed deeply. I'm not sure I can keep doing this. I'm exhausted, physically and mentally. I'm losing faith in the business, in myself. Emeka nodded knowingly. Sounds like burnout. It's real, Tunde. You're not alone. Later that week, Tunde called Ifeoma and Emeka together. His voice was heavy with resignation. I've been thinking a lot, he began. Maybe it's time I sell my share. I can't give this company what it needs anymore. Ifeoma's eyes welled with tears, but she fought to keep her voice steady. Tunde, we're a team. We'll get through this together. But Tunde shook his head. I need to step back for my own sanity. You both have the strength to carry on. The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling like a shadow. That night, as Tunde lay awake, the city's distant hum a reminder of dreams both broken and waiting, he wondered if stepping away was surrender, or the first step toward saving himself. The news of Tunde's intention to sell his share hit the team like a sudden storm. In the dim light of their co-working space, Ifeoma and Emeka exchanged worried glances, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them. Ifeoma's voice trembled as she spoke. Tunde, we understand you're tired, but this startup isn't just a business. It's our dream, our fight. We need you. Tunde looked away, his jaw tight. I know, but I'm drowning. I don't want to drag you down with me. Emeka stepped forward, placing a firm hand on Tunde's shoulder. You're not alone in this. We'll find a way to share the burden. But don't give up on yourself, or us, just yet. Despite their support, Tunde felt the pull of exhaustion and doubt stronger than ever. He spent long nights wandering the city streets, the neon signs blurring as his mind wrestled with the future. One rainy evening, He found himself at a quiet cafe, the warm light a stark contrast to the storm outside. A stranger at the next table noticed his troubled gaze and offered a simple piece of advice. Sometimes, stepping back isn't surrender, it's survival. But don't lose sight of why you started. Those words lingered, planting a seed of hope amid the turmoil. Back with the team, Tunde began to open up more about his struggles, allowing Ifeoma and Emeka to share the load. Together, they redefined their roles, bringing in new help and creating space for healing. The journey was far from over, but in that moment of vulnerability, Tunde found a renewed strength, not just in himself, but in the power of trust and friendship. With renewed honesty and openness, the team began to rebuild not just their startup, but their trust in one another. Tunde's decision to share his struggles instead of walking away alone marked a turning point. The weight that once threatened to crush him was now distributed among friends who refused to let the dream die. Ifeoma took on more of the creative and community outreach work, her energy infectious as she connected with vendors and users alike. Emeka dug deeper into refining the app's technology, often burning the midnight oil but always with a renewed sense of purpose. Tunde, meanwhile, focused on strategic planning and nurturing investor relationships, pacing the line between caution and ambition. One afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows across the co-working space, Tunde gathered the team for a meeting. His eyes shone with a quiet determination. "We faced setbacks, doubts, and even thought about giving up," he said, voice steady. "But now, we're stronger because we faced those challenges together. This isn't just my dream anymore, it's ours." Ifeoma smiled warmly. "And together, we'll make sure it thrives." Emeka nodded in agreement. Grit isn't just about holding on, it's about growing through the struggle. The city outside continued its relentless pace, but inside their small corner, a new chapter was unfolding, one defined by resilience, friendship, and the unshakable belief that from zero, with grit, anything was possible. The renewed hope that had begun to blossom within the team was shattered in an instant, an unforeseen tragedy that would test their strength like never before. It was a rainy evening when Emeka left the co-working space later than usual, his mind still buzzing with ideas for the app's next update. The streets were slick with rain, reflections of neon signs shimmering on the asphalt. As he crossed a busy intersection, a speeding car lost control, skidding wildly before crashing into him. The news came like a thunderclap. Ifeoma was the first to hear, her phone vibrating with a call from the hospital. She collapsed into Tunde's arms, tears streaming as she whispered, "Emeka, he's gone." Tunde's world tilted. The vibrant, steady presence of their friend and partner was suddenly gone, snatched away in a cruel twist of fate. The apartment they once shared felt unbearably empty, the silence a stark contrast to the lively debates and laughter that had filled it. Days blurred into nights as grief weighed heavily on them. Ifeoma, usually a beacon of strength, struggled to hold herself together. Tunde found himself wandering the city streets, haunted by memories and the question of what might have been. In a quiet moment on the rooftop, beneath a sky heavy with stars, Tunde whispered to the night, "Emeka believed in us. I have to keep going, for him." Ifeoma nodded beside him, her voice breaking but resolute. "We carry him with us, in every line of code, every vendor we help." Their pain was raw, but it forged an even deeper bond between them. Through tears and heartache, they vowed to honor Emeka's memory by pushing forward, fueled by the grit and friendship that had brought them this far. The days after Emeka's death stretched into a blur of grief and relentless work. Ifeoma threw herself into the startup with a fierce determination, as if by keeping busy she could hold back the flood of sorrow that threatened to consume her. But beneath her tireless efforts, a shadow was growing, one that no amount of passion or grit could easily banish. At first, it was subtle. She'd forget small things, missed meetings, misplaced notes, moments of confusion that she brushed off as exhaustion. But as weeks turned into months, the cracks deepened. She began to hear whispers when no one was around, fleeting shadows at the edge of her vision, and a growing sense of isolation even in crowded rooms. One evening, after a long day of vendor meetings and app updates, Ifeoma sat alone in the dim light of the apartment. Her hands trembled as she stared at her phone, the screen blurring before her eyes. She tried to focus on the messages from Tunde, but the words twisted and swirled, refusing to make sense. Tunde found her there later, slumped against the wall, eyes vacant. His heart clenched. Iffy, talk to me. She blinked, struggling to ground herself. I'm fine, she whispered, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. Concerned, Tunde urged her to see a doctor, but Ifeoma resisted, fearing that admitting weakness would unravel everything they'd built. Still, her condition worsened. Episodes of disorientation, bouts of anxiety, and moments where reality seemed to slip away. Despite it all, she refused to let the business falter. She continued leading vendor outreach, managing the team, and pushing the app forward, even as her mind waged a silent battle. One afternoon, during a crucial investor call, Ifeoma's vision blurred, and she struggled to find words. Tunde stepped in seamlessly, but the incident was a wake-up call. Afterward, in the quiet of the rooftop, Tunde took her hands gently. Iffy, you don't have to carry this alone. We'll get through it, together. Tears welled in her eyes. I just don't want to lose us. Or the dream. You won't, he promised. We'll fight this like everything else. Their journey had taken a painful tone, but their bond and grit remained unbroken, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. The weight of grief and exhaustion finally overwhelmed Ifeoma one cold, rainy night. Alone in the apartment, the walls seemed to close in, the silence deafening. Her thoughts spiraled uncontrollably, each memory of Emeka's sharp ache, each moment a reminder of the void he left behind. The relentless pressure to keep the startup afloat felt unbearable. In a moment of despair, she reached for a bottle of pills she had hidden away, her hands trembling as she contemplated ending the pain. But just as she was about to take the fatal step, her phone buzzed, an incoming call from Tunde. Her fingers hovered, then she answered, voice barely a whisper. Tunde. His voice was steady, filled with concern. Iffy, where are you? Please talk to me. Taze blurred her vision as she whispered her location. Within minutes, Tunde was at her side, finding her pale and shaking, the bottle on the floor. He took her hand gently, his own voice breaking. You're not alone. We'll get through this. I promise. The next morning, Tunde insisted she see a doctor. Reluctantly, Ifeoma agreed, meeting Dr. Mani, a compassionate psychiatrist with kind eyes and a calm demeanor. He listened without judgment as she poured out her pain and fears. Over the following weeks, Dr. Mani guided Ifeoma through therapy and medication, helping her navigate the dark corridors of her mind. His steady presence became a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the storm. Their sessions grew longer, conversations more personal. Dr. Mani's empathy and understanding broke down Ifeoma's walls, and in turn, she brought light into his life as well. As her strength returned, so did a quiet affection between them, a bond forged in vulnerability and healing. Certainly, here's a continuation focusing on the evolving relationship between Ifeoma and Dr. Mani, blending their personal journey with the ongoing startup challenges. The weeks that followed marked a delicate turning point in Ifeoma's life. Each therapy session with Dr. Mani felt like a small victory, a step away from the shadows that had long haunted her. His calm voice and steady presence became a source of comfort, a quiet anchor in the storm of her mind. One late afternoon, after a particularly challenging session, Dr. Mani walked Ifeoma to the small cafe across the street. The golden light of the setting sun cast warm hues over the bustling city, softening the edges of the world. Ifeoma, he said gently, stirring his tea, healing isn't linear. There will be days when the weight feels unbearable again. But you're stronger than you realize. She looked at him, eyes glistening with gratitude. Thank you, Amani, for not giving up on me. He smiled, a hint of something tender flickering in his gaze. It's an honor to walk this path with you. Outside, the city's pulse continued unabated, but in that quiet moment, a fragile new connection began to take root. Back at the startup, Ifeoma's return brought renewed energy. Tunde noticed a subtle change, the way her laughter returned, the spark in her eyes. The team rallied around her, inspired by her resilience. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Ifeoma found herself sharing a quiet conversation with Tunde on the rooftop, the city lights twinkling below. We've been through so much, she said softly, but I'm beginning to believe in us again. Tunde nodded, his voice steady, and we're just getting started. Meanwhile, Her relationship with Dr. Manny deepened, their sessions evolving into moments of genuine friendship and understanding. Boundaries blurred gently, and both found solace in the growing trust between them. As the startup faced new challenges and opportunities, Ifeoma's journey of healing intertwined with the team's fight for success, each step forward a testament to the power of grit, hope, and human connection. Ifeoma found herself caught in a quiet battle between heart and mind. Though Dr. Manny's gentle presence and unwavering support had become a beacon of light during her darkest days, she struggled to accept the feelings that were quietly blossoming between them. Each session, each shared smile, seemed to pull her closer, yet she fought to keep the distance, fearful that opening her heart again might unravel the fragile progress she had made. She told herself it was better to focus on the startup, to pour every ounce of her energy into rebuilding what Emeka had helped create. Love, she reasoned, was a luxury she could ill afford. But no matter how firmly she tried to resist, her thoughts kept drifting to Manny's calm eyes and the way his presence steadied her trembling spirit. One evening, after a long day negotiating with vendors and troubleshooting app issues, Ifeoma sat alone on the rooftop, the city lights flickering below like distant stars. Her hands were clenched tightly in her lap, her mind a whirlwind of doubt and longing. "Why can't I just let this go?" she whispered to the night. Her phone buzzed softly, a message from Manny. "Remember, healing is not just about surviving, it's about living. You deserve that." The words warmed her, yet also unsettled her. She wasn't sure if she was ready to live fully again. But Manny's impact went beyond the personal. His steady encouragement seeped into her wake, rekindling the grit that had once defined her. When setbacks hit the startup, bugs in the app, vendor frustrations, investor doubts, it was Ifeoma who stood firm, her resolve strengthened by the quiet confidence he inspired. During one tense meeting, when a major investor threatened to pull out, Ifeoma's voice rang clear and unwavering. "We've faced tougher storms. This isn't just a business, it's a community. We will adapt, we will grow, and we will succeed." Tunde and the team exchanged impressed glances. The Ifeoma they saw now was not just a survivor, she was a leader reborn. Though she still wrestled with her feelings for Manny, Ifeoma began to understand that embracing love didn't mean losing control. It could be the very source of strength she needed. One rainy afternoon, after a particularly grueling day at the startup, Ifeoma sat quietly in Dr. Manny's office, her fingers nervously twisting a loose thread on her sleeve. The rain tapped softly against the window, mirroring the turmoil inside her. "Manny," she began hesitantly, "I'm scared. Scared that if I let myself feel this, if I let myself love again, I might lose control. That I might fall and not be able to get back up." He leaned forward, his voice calm and steady. "Ifem, love isn't a weakness. It's a source of strength. It's okay to be afraid, but don't let that fear keep you from living fully. You've already shown incredible grit, both in your healing and in your work. Let yourself be human." The words settled in her heart, softening the edges of her resistance. Back at the startup, Ifeoma's renewed inner strength became evident. When a critical bug threatened to derail a major update, she coordinated the team with clarity and calm, her voice steady even as tension mounted. "We've faced challenges before," she reminded them. "This is just another hurdle. Let's tackle it head on." Her leadership inspired confidence, and the team rallied, working late into the night to fix the issue. One evening, as the city lights flickered below the rooftop, Manny joined her for a quiet moment away from the chaos. "I'm proud of how far you've come," he said softly. Ifem smiled, the walls around her heart beginning to crumble. "I'm learning that strength isn't just about holding on, it's about letting go, too." Their hands brushed, a spark igniting between them, signaling the start of something deeper. The city was alive with possibility as Ifeoma stood before a packed audience at the annual Urban Innovators Summit. The event hall shimmered with anticipation, sleek banners, rows of eager faces, and the low hum of conversation from investors, founders, and reporters. Tunde watched from the wings, pride and hope mingling in his eyes. Ifeoma took the stage with quiet confidence. She wore a tailored cobalt blue blazer over her signature creative attire, her honey-brown skin glowing under the lights. Her eyes, bright and determined, swept the room as she began her pitch. Imagine a city where every small vendor has the same reach as the biggest brands, where technology bridges gaps, empowers communities, and turns local dreams into global realities. That's what we've built, and that's why we're here. She spoke with passion and clarity, weaving the story of their journey, the struggles, the losses, the grit that fueled every breakthrough. The audience listened, rapt, as she described the impact on vendors and the community, her voice unwavering even as she recalled Emeka's legacy and her own battle back from the edge. When the Q&A began, a sharply dressed woman in the front row raised her hand. Her name was Ms. Harper, a renowned angel investor known for her keen eye and bold bets. "Ifeoma," she said, her tone both challenging and intrigued, "what makes your team different from the dozens of startups I've seen fail?" Ifeoma met her gaze, her answer steady. "We're not just building a business. We're building resilience. We've faced loss, burnout, and corporate giants. What keeps us going isn't just profit, it's purpose. And that's something you can't outspend or outcompete." A ripple of admiration moved through the room. After the presentation, Ms. Harper approached Ifeoma backstage. Up close, her presence was commanding, tall, silver-haired, with sharp blue eyes and a handshake that radiated confidence. "I see founders every day," Ms. Harper said, "but rarely do I see this kind of fire and honesty. I want in $1 million for a minority stake. You keep control, but let's take this citywide. No, nationwide." For a moment, Ifeoma could only stare, the magnitude of the offer sinking in. Then her face broke into a radiant smile, tears of relief and joy welling in her eyes. Tunde and the team rushed to her side, embracing in disbelief and celebration. Going big. With Ms. Harper's investment, everything changed. The team moved into a bright, modern office, sunlight streaming across polished floors and glass walls. They expanded their tech infrastructure, hiring new developers and support staff. Marketing campaigns launched across the city, their brand splashed on billboards and buses. Vendor sign-ups soared, and the app's download broke records. Ifeoma became a sought-after speaker, her story inspiring countless others. Yet through the whirlwind of growth, she never lost sight of their mission, or the people who made it possible. In every meeting, every new feature, every vendor partnership, Ifeoma honored the journey that brought them here. On the rooftop one evening, as the city lights sparkled below, Tunde raised a toast. To grit, to dreams, and to the woman who showed us all how to rise. The city never truly sleeps. Its streets pulse with stories of dreams forged and battles won. From shadowed rooftops and crowded marketplaces to gleaming towers and bustling tech hubs, the heartbeat of this place sings of resilience. Tunde, Ifeoma, and the memories of Emeka have become woven into the fabric of that song. What began as a flicker of hope in a cramped apartment had grown into a beacon of possibility, lighting the way for countless others. Ifeoma stood once more on that familiar rooftop, the wind tugging gently at her hair, the skyline glowing like a constellation of promise before her. The app that had started as a simple idea now connected thousands of voices, vendors whose hands shaped the city's soul, customers whose lives it had touched. Beside her, Tunde raised his glass, eyes shining not just with success, but with gratitude for the journey, the setbacks that taught them patience, the losses that taught them compassion, the grit that refused to let go. "We did more than build a startup," Tunde said softly. "We helped build a community, and that, Ife, is a real dream." She smiled, the weight of all their struggles lifting into lightness. "From zero, with grit," she whispered back. Together, they looked out over the city, a living testament to the power of dreams fueled by courage, friendship, and unbreakable spirit. And as the dusk deepened, their story became part of the city's endless tale, inspiring the dreamers who would come after them to rise again and again. Because in this city, dreams never die. They only grow. The end.